right, welcome to the webinar. My name is Chris Barrera, and I'll be your facilitator today for our webinar, The Basics of Employee Surveys. It's always an honor to have our partners join these webinars that we can share information with you and provide useful information to you. This course has been pre-approved for one SHRM and one HRCI PDC. Of course, if you have any questions regarding recertification, please visit those websites for SHRM or HRCI. But you can also email me at chrisb@HubEngage if you have any particular questions about previous webinars or this particular webinar. All participants are recorded electronically, so their total time participating is documented. And if they fully participate, they will be automatically sent a certificate for both SHRM and HRCI that will have the required information, including the activity ID for the credit. The team at HubEngage is always searching for the most relevant topics to bring that are current events, information that's relevant, and again, that has some value back to you and your teams as you perform your roles. We've had recent topics like the future of remote work. We've had seminars on employee engagement, employee vaccinations, and the last one we did last month on the Great Resignation. All of those are available on our website or HubEngage's website. And if you could just go to hubengage.com/resources, you can access all of our previous webinars, register for upcoming webinars, and also listen to our Turn on Engagement podcasts. So today, let's talk a little bit. Today we'll be covering the following objectives in this webinar. Why use employee surveys? Why use employee surveys? So we'll be, talking about some current events and things that I think make employee surveys important in our organizations. This is the basics of employee surveys. So we'll be talking about various types of surveys. Survey design basics, how to effectively write a survey, the do's and the don'ts. Share some information with you about survey communication styles, sharing the results and action plans, evaluating the survey data and business intelligence tools, and lastly, we'll end with technology and surveys. Last month, we provided a webinar, Understanding the Great Resignation. And this was to reveal struggles that many employers have faced in retaining and attracting employees and what is a very hot labor market. While the COVID-19 pandemic has left scars for many of us at home and in the workplace, we continue to feel the effects of the pandemic on our economy, our health and wellness, and our job satisfaction in the workplace. As I was preparing this presentation, Gallup published their 2022 Global Workplace Report. And I've included the link for you in the references, and I will provide the presentation to each one of you. And it's a very insightful report. If you have the time, I encourage you to at least look at the executive summary, a lot of valuable information about the global workforce. According to Gallup in 2019, before the start of the pandemic, we saw the highest gains in employee engagement that we've ever seen in the last decade. But like many other post-pandemic statistics, we have yet to regain the pre-pandemic levels of employee engagement. What this means for employees post-pandemic is that we must work harder to understand what's driving employee dissatisfaction, what creates higher employee engagement, and we need to understand the tools that we can use to help us peel back the proverbial onion to understand how we address issues for employees regarding workplace safety, job satisfaction, employee engagement, et cetera. In their State of the Global Workplace Report for 2022, Gallup reports that globally, employee engagement rose by only 1% to 21% of employees are engaged at work. And keep in mind, these are the global numbers, but still below the pre-pandemic level. Globally, 44% of employees experience stress a lot on the previous day, and 45% say it's a good time to find a job. And then lastly, 33% say that they are thriving. Now, the Gallup report has many factors that they measure, but I think these are some of the highlights and some of the important highlights that we should take away. Now, Regionally in the United States and Canada, I know many of our partners have operations globally, but here in the United States and Canada, these numbers are actually significantly higher. 33% of employees are engaged versus 21% number for our global counterparts. 50% of employees experienced stress a lot on the previous day, and 71% said it was a good time to find a job. And then last, 60% of employees surveyed said that they are thriving. Despite having higher stress volumes and higher daily worry than their global counterparts, they still experience higher employee engagement rates and much higher thriving evaluation percentages. US and Canada were number one in employee engagement, number two in well-being, number one in job opportunities, and number two living comfortably. So what does this mean? Well, we may be better off than some of the other parts of the globe, but it's still a moving target, and it's still something that is extremely important to measure and understand, and why we use employee surveys. If you listen to last month's webinar on the Great Resignation, people are leaving their employers in record rates. And 50% of employees surveyed say they would entertain looking for a job or maybe even change a job. Those are pretty high percentage numbers. If you look at the 71% who say it's a good time to find a job, a lot of your workforce is looking, right? So it's extremely important to understand how employees feel and make sure that we're using employee surveys to drive and improve our workplace. Now, survey tools have been around for over 100 years, so why use employee surveys, right? We saw the first employee surveys, commonly known as employee attitude surveys, surface in the industrial companies back in the 1920s. Between 1944 and 1947, the National Industrial Advisory Board saw a 250% jump in companies that chose to conduct attitude surveys. This increased awareness and measurement tools regarding employees' attitudes is attributed to research and observation conducted during World War II, which sought to measure morale and replicate high morale environments. As a matter of fact, the United States Army Research Branch, for example, conducted soldier surveys, which they recorded the opinions of more than 500,000 soldiers on topics ranging from food quality to confidence in leadership. Examples of early surveys methods include printed questionnaires, direct interviews, unguided interviews. Today, many organizations conduct their own surveys. Some contract with a survey provider or use a combination of both. And with the onset of modern technology, many companies began to use survey software, web applications, began to use mobile applications to be able to gather and present data, survey data for their employees. So that takes us to our topic today, the basics of employee surveys. So we're going to talk a little bit about the various types of surveys. Putting this presentation together, there's actually quite a bit of information that's available out there. There are quite a few tools that are being used. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the common types of surveys, what they're used for, and how you can use them in your own organization. Probably the most common tool that we've all have seen for years is the annual review survey, right? This is a common tool to measure employee performance, provide feedback to the employee about their job performance. These are intended to be a historical record for the employee. We have company culture surveys. This is a really hot topic in today's marketplace when it comes to employee engagement, when it comes to measuring the values for a company, is how our companies evaluate the culture in their organization. This type of survey is used to facilitate and solicit feedback regarding the company's behavior, how well it's aligned with their published values, and the results can be used to improve leadership strategies, organizational strategies, and future investments. Employee engagement surveys, again, a very common tool that's now being used. This survey measures how employees feel valued or appreciated by their company and management. Measurements include how employees are engaged, eager and dedicated with respect to their job, their coworkers, management, the company. And this is especially important for reducing employee turnover. So employee engagement surveys are really a hot topic and are really hot topic to be using in surveys today. Employee satisfaction surveys. These type of surveys measure the overall employee satisfaction. This can be used to target a specific employee dissatisfaction and certain types of issues. A little bit more about various types of surveys. We talked in the very beginning about employee attitude surveys. This measures the feelings and emotions within the workplace. We have employee opinion surveys. These can be used to determine views and beliefs held by employees within your organization. 360 surveys have been around for a while. These are unique because they're used to measure employees or people from multiple viewpoints. This can include coworkers, supervisors, managers, subordinates, even vendors and customers. And then we have organizational assessment surveys. These measure the key strengths in our company. And then lastly, on various types of surveys, we have employer improvement surveys. These give the employees a chance to provide constructive criticism about their employer. Employers use this information to strategize ways to improve their organizational process and identify areas of weakness. These are relatively new to in the market. I think that HR departments have been doing them a while, but I think they're extremely important in today's environment. And this is the employee exit survey. This provides valuable insight into workplace relationships, training, opportunities for growth, and work process within an organization. We talked about how employees are leaving in record numbers, and it's extremely important to try to understand why employees are leaving and be able to get that candid feedback from them. These employee exit surveys can be done a number of ways. We're today, I think we're talking more about online or web-based applications, but these surveys can also be done one-on-one when they need to be able to gather that important information. Employee benefit surveys. These are regularly used to survey employees regarding benefits satisfaction, and can help organizations tailor benefits to their employees. And professional development surveys. These type of surveys ask employees if they feel that they've been given the proper training and development tools to advance their professional career and goals in the workplace. So we just mentioned and discovered there's at least a dozen types of surveys the organization can use to determine levels of employee satisfaction, employee dissatisfaction, employee engagement, employee attitude, and company culture, et cetera. One of the surveys that I find extremely interesting and can be very effective is the employee net promoter score. This is another type of survey. While I have almost 20 years of human resource experience, I've always been a customer service professional as well. One of the most effective scores a company can receive is a high or positive score, positive net promoter score from their customers. The employee net promoter score, also called ENPS, is a scoring system designed to help employers measure employee satisfaction and loyalty within their organization. It's based on the net promoter score system from Bain and Company, Symmetric Systems Inc., and Fred Reichel that gauge customer loyalty. Very similar to the net promoter score, the survey consists of 2 questions. And that's what I love about this ENPS. It's a very simple survey, but it's also a very powerful survey. The first question asks employees to rate on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely is it that they would recommend their organization as a great place to work? The second is an open-ended question asking why they chose the rating they did. I'm a supporter of ENPS because it's such a simple and powerful survey and very easy to implement in any organization. Now, the calculation for the Net Promoter Score uses 3 groups to measure the number of employee promoters of the organization. The first group are employees who selected 0 through 6. Those employees are called detractors. They're neither promoters, they're not promoters, but detractors. The second group are employees who selected 0 through 8. These are considered passive. They are neither detractors or promoters and are seen as neutral. The last group are employees who selected 9 through 10 as how likely they would recommend the organization as a great place to work. To calculate the ENPS score, we use the following formula to calculate. ENPS score equals the percent of promoters minus the percent of detractors. So for instance, if we surveyed 100 employees, 50 or 50% were promoters, 20 or 20% were detractors, and the remaining 30% were passive. The employee net promoter score would be a 30. The ENPS score can vary widely by industry and from company to company. A general rule of thumb is that a score around 30 is considered good, and anything above 50 is considered excellent. Using the net promoter score and using the comment question to gather reasons on why employees were detractors or promoters can allow you to see what areas you're doing well at and what areas need to be improved. So now let's talk a little bit about survey designs. Where do we begin? Where do we start? Before you decide to create and administer a survey, there are a few critical points you should also consider when designing the survey. First, what topic will be a part of the survey? Are you specifically measuring employee engagement, company culture, or conducting an attitude survey? It's very important to select your topic and do not attempt to mix topics that could make the survey more complicated or confusing for the employee. For instance, you would not choose an employee engagement topic and also survey them about safety. Make your survey specific and convey the intent. Second, consider the timing of the survey. There's a saying that timing is everything. Consider the events that are happening within the organization, good or bad. The implementation of an employee engagement survey directly after a layoff would potentially provide bad results. Could there be advantages for understanding what employees are worried about or how you can address their concern? Providing a survey directly after a safety day, for instance, of training, could yield higher positive ratings versus waiting a week or two for employees to reflect on the training. So, timing is everything. Consider the timing in your surveys. The frequency of the survey should also be considered. Annual performance surveys, as they indicate, are done once annually to get and give feedback to employees. But you could consider other more frequent, smaller pulse surveys throughout the year that could be administered weekly, biweekly, or even monthly. Are there events that are going on that warrant an immediate survey, for instance? Issues that are, a result of the ongoing pandemic, right? Are there things or events that are going on that warrant a survey and feedback from your employees? While each survey is intended to gather specific information, you do want to balance getting the required information, but also consider the amount of time it will take to complete the survey. An effective survey should be short, easy to understand, and give the respondent the ability to answer the survey in a reasonable amount of time. The type of questions should be considered. Will you be using multiple choice, open-ended questions? Will you be using a point scale answer like a Likert scale or agree or disagree scale? These are all questions that need to be considered when you're designing the type of survey you will be administering. So let's talk a little bit more about survey design basics. Probably two of the most common questions that I get about surveys is, what's the best question, and how should it be constructed? Should you use open-ended questions or should you use closed-ended questions? And the answer really depends. I'm going to share some information with you here that tells you why one is better than the other, but they're both important and both need to be used at appropriate times. So let's talk a little bit about what they are. Open-ended questions are those that provide respondents with a question prompt and provide them a space in which to construct their own response. Closed-ended questions alternately provide a question prompt and ask respondents to choose from a list of possible responses. An example of an open-ended question might be, where did you meet your wife? Or what are you wearing today? Very specific answers that could be as simple as a yes or no. One of the strengths of an open-ended question is that they allow for the discovery of unanticipated responses. This allows the surveyor to gather detailed information from the respondent. Open-ended questions are time-consuming for both the surveyor and the respondent. It will take a respondent much longer to answer the survey, thus risking participation rates. It will take the surveyor much longer to categorize and analyze the data, resulting in significant investment in time. Open-ended questions are exploratory in nature and offer the surveyor qualitative data. They provide the survey with an opportunity to gain insight on all the opinions on a topic that they may not be familiar with. However, being qualitative in nature makes these types of questions lack their statistical significance needed for conclusive research, and again, time-consuming in putting together and analyzing the data. Closed-ended questions can be a simple yes or no answer. Some examples for a closed-ended question might be, did you order a hamburger? Or are you still living in Texas? Closed-ended questions, on the other hand, come in a multitude of forms, including multiple choice, drop-down, checkboxes, and ranking questions. Each question type allows the respondent to provide unique or unanticipated answers, but rather choose from a list of pre-selected options. Using closed-ended questions for the following: when your audience is particularly interested in your survey topic, when you need quantifiable data, or you need to categorize respondents. The major drawback to closed-ended questions is that a surveyor must already have a clear understanding of the topic of his or her question and how they tie into the overall research problem before they're created. Survey design basics. So let's kind of break down these closed-ended questions now in survey question types. In rating scale questions, sometimes referred to as ordinal questions, the question displays a scale answer from any range. Examples could be 0 to 5, 1 to 10, 0 to 100. The respondent selects the number that most accurately represents their response. A sample question might be, how would you rate our service out of 5? Likert scales are very common questions in surveys, and most likely one that you've seen. This generally uses a 5, 6, 7, or 9-point scale to measure the response from the respondent. A sample question might be, how satisfied are you with our service today? Multiple choice questions are the most popular survey question type. They allow your respondent to select one or more opinions from a list of answers that you define. These are intuitive, easy to use in different ways, and they help produce an easy way to analyze the data and provide mutually exclusive choices. Because the answer options are fixed, your respondent has an easier time taking the survey, and it provides a better user experience. Now, if you want to ask a few questions in a row that have the same response option, you can use matrix questions. Matrix questions could be, your best option, and a series of Likert scale questions or a series of rating scale questions can work well as a matrix question. And basically, a matrix question is you're asking multiple questions, sometimes in a series of 2 or 3 that have the same rating scale or the same Likert scale. Okay, so that makes it easier to get through the survey and answer multiple questions. The drop-down question is an easy way to display a long list of multiple choice answers without overwhelming your respondents. With it, you can give them a scrollable list of answers to choose from. And then lastly, using demographic survey questions if you're interested in gathering information about a respondent's background or income level. When properly used, these types of questions in the questionnaire allow you to gain better insight on your target audience. So now let's talk about writing effective surveys, the do's and don'ts. Okay, so do start and end with easy questions. Start with easy questions, eases them into the survey, and ending with easy questions helps them feel like taking the survey was effortless. Don't ask questions that are confusing or unrelated. Questions should be precise and simple. Using terminology that participants do not understand, like using jargon, or combining 2 topics into one question, make the question difficult to answer and understand. Let respondents know that their answers are confidential and anonymous. This will facilitate candid feedback and better results. Now, there are certain types of surveys that are not confidential or anonymous, but for the most part, if you're soliciting and want candid feedback from employees, being able to make sure that you're able to use a method that delivers those confidentially or anonymously will really help your participation rates and really help you get that candid feedback. Asking too many questions or making the survey too long. We've all clicked on that dreaded survey that is already 15 minutes in and it's only 50% complete. Adding too many questions can make the survey long and discourage participation. Make sure the survey questions you choose are of the quality and quantity to get as many completed responses as possible. Don't ask your survey too often. There is value in getting short pulse surveys, but there is a balance. Asking too frequently can discourage participation and deteriorate the feedback. Don't use a survey writer that has an interest in the survey. We're all capable of being biased. Try to use a writer or series of writers that are neutral, that cannot add bias to how and when the questions are being asked or point a respondent to a certain answer. Respondents that feel they're being asked leading questions may not want to participate. If you're a smaller shop and you're limited to the survey writer, assemble a small team, have other people review your questions. You do likewise, and just look for carefully at those questions that are not any bias or leading questions. You don't provide survey results back to the employee. Survey results should be provided to participants as communicated prior to the survey. We're going to talk about action plans and good communication plans, but those should have already been provided prior to the survey. You're going to want to meet those expectations. Not providing timely results deteriorates trust and transparency. You want to leave the impression that their opinions count and that their voices will be heard. You don't communicate or share action plans. Again, something that should have already been decided prior to the survey and communicated. You should share the action plan as outlined in the original communication to employees when you deployed the survey. And then lastly, do provide rewards and recognitions. There are a number of tools out there that can help with that, but there are ways to reward participation. Some examples could be, rewarding points, redeemable for gifts or swag. You can enter employees for a chance to win a gift card, etc. Give people incentives to want to participate, get something back in value, and give you the feedback that you're looking for. Before conducting a survey, establish a communication plan with the whole organization. Communicate the type and purpose of the survey, what will be measured and why, Use multiple communication methods to communicate this information. Many tools today provide the option of email, but if you can text, post flyers, use your intranets, maybe push information through a mobile application, getting that information out about the survey and how you're going to be using the survey, what the action plans are, et cetera, are good ways to get that information out. Establish what steps the organization will take to analyze the data and how the information will be shared to leadership and employees. How long will it take? When can they expect the results? And what action plans will take place and when? These are good topics for your all hands meetings to give them updates on initial results, the progress that you're making toward those results, and any improvement that have been made. The best results are usually gathered when they are anonymous. I've already said that. Depending on the tools that are being used, it's important to communicate that clearly to the employees. Anonymous surveys are to solicit more candid feedback and ease the worry that the results can be linked back to employees. And then lastly, publish the survey results. While there are many opportunities, pick a short list of opportunities that will be formulated into a plan. Pick that low-hanging fruit, show the initial results and how you plan to improve those results in a reasonable time frame. This will require resurveying employees to see the progress that has been made. Evaluating survey data and business intelligence tools. If you have the budget and are already working or will be working with a survey vendor, you may already have the proper tools to help you evaluate the data. Using predefined reports, canned reports, dashboards. If you have the ability to create custom reporting, using an analytical tool will all help you get to the data you need and even allow you to easily share the data. But don't despair. If you're one of those shops that's doing this from, building your own and analyzing your own data, Excel is still a great tool and will be valuable in your evaluation of data. Even if you're using a vendor tool and a reporting engine, make sure that any reporting or data that is provided can be converted to CSV, comma, separated value data. This will allow you to use Excel statistical tools and allow you to create meaningful pivot table data for analysis. Excel has a very user-friendly pivot table data generator and will allow you to group data in various ways to help you identify trends and pattern in the data. Quantify the results. Quantify numerical scores. Results are direct and in a meaningful way to express results. Everybody understands and remembers numbers. This also makes it easier to compare data. For example, showing how different respondents answered a survey item as a percentage helps us better understand the overall trend. Look for patterns and trends. It's important to also group data by segment or groups like locations, employee types, whether that's hourly or salary, full-time or part-time, benefit eligible employees, et cetera. This may allow you to see gaps or differences in certain groups. Ultimately, what you're doing when you're reviewing the data is you're looking for those results that tell you how you're doing, but you're also looking for those results that you may not have identified yet, or rather opportunities. While we mentioned today the high value of quantifiable data, this is the closed-ended, different types of closed-ended questions. Qualitative data is also very important in getting to the details for certain topics. Do not overlook this type of data and the value that it provides. Benchmarking provides you the ability to monitor and see how you stand out. Benchmarking allows you to share results over time and see the organization's progress. There is a lot of data available out on the web and by providers on your competition, similar companies, by industry. Use that data to show how your organization compares. So for instance, if your employee net promoter score is 70 and the industry or a large competitor is at 30, this is a great story to tell. Measure your organization against itself and other published benchmarks. Share your results with employees and the organization. Help the organization see the results through the use of visual tools. For instance, using a pie chart. A pie chart is the simplest chart to use that almost everybody understands. You need to be able to limit and prioritize the data you want to see, and try to limit a maximum of 5 categories. Bar charts can be used to group specific types of data or show how particular groups or segments responded to the survey. And then lastly, using aligned charts are effective if you want to show results over time, or you want to compare data for 2 or more groups, topics, or categories. So while it's possible to write and create effective surveys on your own, we highly recommend using a third-party vendor to provide the tool and delivery of the survey or administer the whole survey. Carefully evaluate the vendors on features, functionality, delivery methods, analytics and reporting, and price. There are full service providers that will do survey design based on their science and research. They will bill, administer, gather results, and provide data and analytics of the survey. While you have some input on the type and design, they're usually predefined and will be ready out of the box, so to speak. There are also full service providers that offer you the tools that you need to deliver the survey, but you are the administrator that's delivering, reviewing the results, and analyzing the data. Many of the providers are giving you dashboards, predefined reporting and analytics, and will even provide guidance on the interpretation of the data. They're also providing various tools for deployment that can help you reach a total audience regardless of how your employees work or the type of connectivity they may have. Survey tools that include web applications, mobile applications, kiosks, and data displays, email, text, and push notifications are just some of the tools that are available from vendors. Support and identifying your unique brand are also huge components when using tools to deliver content, surveys, communicate your results, and capturing additional feedback. You want your employees to identify the survey with your brand and with your organization. Many survey vendors have the ability to fully customize the employee experience, including downloading an app that are branded as your organization. This strengthens your commitment to your employees and to your brand. So I do want to mention HubEngage here, and HubEngage is actually an employee engagement platform, but they also specialize in a survey module. So I wanted to talk a little bit about their technology, just because I think it ties back to the points that we made today. You're going to want to use as many channels as possible to get that information to your employees. So for instance, HubEngage has a web and internet application. They can access the information directly on the web. There can be a link on the internet. They're able to push information via email and SMS, which is another word for text messages. There's a dedicated mobile app, and then there are digital displays, right? And so digital displays present information at a central location. Sometimes we call these kiosks, but allows information to be accessible without a mobile device or a computer. What does this result in? Well, it allows you to reach employees wherever they are, whether they're on location, in an office or at home. You're able to reach out to everybody. Probably the most powerful thing that HubEngage has for the employee survey is the ability to put it on a smart device. I hear stories all the time from partners that employees don't have access to email, they don't have access to computers. The kiosk is a good idea, but really hard when you have 20 people lined up to take a survey or get to information. Everybody has a mobile device nowadays, right? This is probably the most best way to get information. Everybody knows how to use a mobile device. Everybody has, these mobile apps on their smartphones, and they're able to really understand how to use the technology. So it's a really easy way to deploy information and a real easy way to get the information to your employees. Another thing that's important in a vendor like HubEngage is they have multilingual capabilities, right? And so in some industries, English may not be the first language. If you're in the United States, it could be Spanish. If you're in Canada, it could be French Canadian. So being able to provide those opportunities to give feedback in their own language is a very effective tool. So using these types of technologies really makes it easy to adapt and make that information presentable to your employees. I already talked about digital displays, but being able to have a kiosk and being able to push that information to a device is also very powerful. And then lastly, being able to get to data. This is just one example. Again, this is HubEngage's example, but they provide you a dashboard. You have the ability to customize this. You're able to get immediate feedback. The system is calculating that data as soon as it's submitted. You have opportunities to, share that information immediately or analyze the data and then share that information back to your stakeholders, and whether that be employees or leadership, it's very easy to get that information. So again, these are tools that are available, and they're available by a number of vendors, but these are the type of technologies, these are the types of features that you're looking for in order to be able to provide effective surveys. All right, so in conclusion, I talked a little bit about hub engagement tools. What I'm going to do for everybody today is that we've prepared a e-guide, the essential guide to employee survey templates. This is a really great tool that has over a dozen different types of survey types, has the questions, sample questions for you to use, even tells you what the preferred or better preferred answering system should be. So whether that should be a multiple choice or agree, disagree type of question, and provides you all of the tools you need to be able to design and do your own survey. Now, you can also reach out to us if you're interested in our survey tool, and we can share additional information with you, maybe even give you a demo of the software to show you how these tools work within the application. Well, thank you again for being a part of the webinar. And our next session next month is going to be Generation X, Y, and Z, and understanding those generations. So look for those upcoming webinars and register and get an opportunity to visit with us. We share some information with you, and then also earn some CE credits. Have a great day. Thank you very much.